Welcome back. It's the last lap of the show. We're still looking at issues with regards labor, but now we're focusing more on labor productivity and wages, and we're looking at it from the legal perspective. Joining me now to talk about it is a lawyer. He's also a lecturer at the School of Media and Communications, Pan Atlantic University, and a managing partner at Ivory Solicitors, Mr. Tommy Vincent. Mr. Vincent, good morning to you, and thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much, Ara, for having me.
You know the issues as it is. We're talking about salaries being owed and, you know, for months on end. Sometimes people not understanding what really, even outside of the civil service, in the private sector now, what really are your contracts? What is your offer? What are you accepting as a form of contract? Now, is employment a matter of statute regulation or contract?
Not exactly totally. I would say this because there are some contracts or some employment that has or that have statutory flavor, and for those ones, to that extent, you find that because of that statutory flavor, it is regulated, and then some do not have. But generally, you have a potpourri of statutory or regimes that can affect employment. It could be statutory, it could be contractual. For civil service, yes, statutory. Some people also have some flavor of statutory nature to that. But generally speaking, we say that one has to be very careful because occasionally you find that the thin line is quite not perceived when you're crossing from the statutory to the commercial or to the contractual.
So why is it that not a lot of people understand? Is it that people don't understand these laws that guide the labor market, or they don't just want to know, or are there laws? Yes, we know that there are laws, but how strong are these laws that guide the labor market?
There are laws, but the laws kind of relate to the extent, let's say that, for instance, the Labor Act defines worker. And those workers that, or the definition in Section 71 or so of Labor Act, talks really about people that have low cadre in terms of probably, let's say, the lower level or lower rung, who the law feels that they're precarious, that their positions are precarious, or they have to protect them. But rather than, aside from that, going for upward, it is you and the contract you sign. It's the agreement you have. So basically, employment is regarded more as a contractual matter. But for the lower rung of employees, they have said, okay, let's give them some protection. So you have Workmen Compensation Act for such people. You have Labor Act for them. You have even housing scheme and things like that relate to them. And then sometimes also for welfare sake, Pension Act for staff and staff in terms of healthcare scheme, and so those are specifics. But generally speaking, when you leave that wrong or that cadre of employees, the upper wrong, you're just on your own. You have to walk into that office and negotiate your terms.
Yeah, because we have situations where employer-employee relationships have been very strained, particularly in areas where you have contract staff. And so at the end of the day, you begin to wonder if there's actually any law that, yes, there are laws, but nobody to enforce these laws. And so everybody just comes and it's like business as usual.
Probably I want to say, there's a difference between the contract staff, like you call them now, and the one that's, okay, we have a contractual relationship. Because if I have a permanent employment with you, it's a contractual relationship as well. But probably you're looking at the temporary staff that will come in, and then they have an agreement that you're going to do something for probably 6 months or 7 months, and by and large it becomes 10 years. You're still on that standby basis. That one is sheer exploitation, and labor law fronts at that. Of course, that's why we have an industrial court that has been set up right now. It just starts.
Well, how many cases actually get to those industrial courts?
Yeah, because I agree with you, because of the financial empowerment of the employees that will probably want to go to that place. So most times, let's call it, jurisprudentially, you find that those courts are more or less for those can have the affordability. So to that extent, I agree with you. And that's why I will always advocate to people that whenever you are entering into contract or employment, read the terms. it's not a sentimental thing. It's something that, you know, some people will tell me that I had an accident in the course of my job, my going on an errand for them, and after 6 months, they stopped paying my salary. I said, those are sentiments, because what exactly did you sign? Because at some point in time, if you become redundant and your redundancy was not contemplated in the agreement you had with them, yes, by reason of moral, probably they should do more for you. They should pay you for 1 or 2 years. But once it's a redundancy of some sort, it can be tagged as frustration of contract. So to that extent, they might say, okay, we were paying you for labor that you are performing, for services you're rendering, and see if you are, you know, on the hospital bed for 6 months, 7 months, there are no services, and our contract says that we'll take care of you to this degree. We have done that, and you're still not well. So, you know, so these are things that people feel cheated about.
Does this also apply to women? Because you see, in the workplace, we have a lot of women, you know, doing some kind of jobs that ordinarily should be reserved for men. But these days, there's the lines are blurred. Yeah, so you have men and women, you know, women working in the men's work, you know, place of workplace, and all the rest of it. And this example that you've just given, that for instance, you become ill, and you're given compulsory bed rest for what, 6 to 7 months. You're not, maybe you're pregnant or something, you know, something very challenging that requires you to be away from work for 6 to 7 months. Can your contract of service be terminated? Does it fall? Can you still hold somebody, you know, get a legal address? No. Or secret legal redress if, for instance, your company terminates your employment while you're in office, but you're still working for that company?
Yeah, you see, they can, to terminate, I want to get the question very well. You're working for them, you are sick or
yes, and you were given a bed rest, compulsory bed rest of 6 months.
Or if it's a medical certification of what you're doing. But even to the degree, you have to be very careful, because there are clear provisions of law, particularly for the lower rung of workers, how many days, as it were, that you can say that you are out of work because of health issues. There's a provisions for that. Now, as I said, that the only kind of people that are regulated are the lower rung of, you know, employees. But basically, for the other rungs, it's about the contract. So if your contract says that in case of bed rest, and it can be adjusted, because sometimes it's like a policy that can be adjusted internally to say, okay, oh, Madam A is having a bed rest for 12 months, and we like what he does. I mean, probably her service is indispensable, we'd like to have it on. But somehow, people don't understand that if that is not part of the contract you sign in the first instance, the employer has a right to entertain or to exercise a discretion about whether or not they will keep you, paying you for whatever it's happened to you. And that's something that many people refuse to accept willingly.
Mr. Tommy Vincent, thank you so much for coming on the program. I hope to have more conversations with you to get to understand very clearly contract of service and service, or contract for service and contract of service.
Oh, that's another area too.
We'll talk about it another time. But thank you so much for coming on the program. Tommy Vincent is the managing partner, Ivy Solicitors. He's also a lecturer at the School of Media and Communications, Pan Atlantic University. Well, that's the program for today. Many thanks for spending time with us. I'm Harriet Agbinyi. Bye-bye.